Edition of Sports Junkies. Time to talk a little pack of football. Steve Sparky, Fifer from the Wendy's Big Show, weekday afternoons from 2 until 6 on Sports Radio 1250 WSSP. And sitting next to me is our high school insider, the WSSP, Mike Big Time McGivern. Catch him on the Wendy's Varsity Blitz High School Football Scoreboard Show Friday nights from 7 until 10, and on the High School Coaches Show on Saturday mornings from 10 until noon. And a very cool show that started, how long has it been going now? Over a year, right? A year and a half?
Faith in the Zone?
Yeah.
It's coming up on the year anniversary.
Anniversary, pretty cool.
October 1st.
Called Faith in the Zone. And it's a different style show. It talks about how God, I don't know, how do you describe it?
You know what? Men and women in and around the game of sport throughout the country that have come on a secular sports station and talk about their faith and their testimony and how that has affected their lives professionally and personally.
But people from the sports world.
Correct.
I mean, they've had Bucks general manager John Hammond on, all kinds of different guys.
Mark Jackson
from the Golden State Warriors.
Jonathan Lucroy. We've had John McLaughlin,
Brian
Anderson.
Number of different Brewers pitchers have been on as well. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the Green Bay Packers. Now, this Packer football team against the Seattle Seahawks were embarrassed. I don't really know what way to put it. They were embarrassed. You come back in week 2, and in the beginning of that game, I think Packer fans were ready to break TVs because they looked so bad to start that game against the Jets big time. But they figured it out, and their defense started playing a heck of a lot better than it did, and they figured out a way to win. How big of a win was it?
Huge. Honestly, I think it was huge because I think they're in some trouble this week.
Against the Lions?
I do, in Detroit. I think they struggle in Detroit. Detroit plays really well at home. And I don't think starting 0-3 is what they want them to do. 1 and 2, they might be able to bounce back. They'll be okay. But I think they might be in a little bit of trouble this week. It was interesting how they went about getting back in that game. And the fact that, they pretty much said, okay, we're not going to be able to run the ball. Every time we try to run the ball, it's not working, and just kind of went Aaron Rodgers to Jordy Nelson over and over again.
I'm not a big fan of Aaron Rodgers to Jordy Nelson over and over again. My dad brought it up to me on Monday morning when I talked to him. He said it reminded me of Favre and Sterling Sharp, where he was just going to throw it to him regardless of how many people there were around him. And he did, to a certain degree, do that with Jordy Nelson. Jordy Nelson has 5 more catches than any other person at the wide receiver position. He has 30 targets, or 30 catches, I believe, to this point, or something like that, 30 targets to this point. They are averaging 15 targets a game to Jordy Nelson. In Aaron Rodgers' career, the leading receiver averages about 8 targets a game. To give you an idea, they're doubling the amount of targets through the first 2 weeks. I just don't know if that's good for this football team if Jordy Nelson ends up getting those many targets every week.
Probably not, but it'd be really good if somebody was smart enough to draft those 2 guys in their fantasy league.
You're right.
Boy, that'd be unbelievable, wouldn't it? That would be unbelievable. Other than that, I think you're right, because what's going to happen is they obviously are going to figure out a way to take him away. I don't know if you saw this, but once or twice in that game against the Jets, they took a defensive lineman and put him out wide to chip Jordy Nelson.
Right.
And I think you're going to see some creative ways to at least slow him down a little bit. They're going to have to get that tight end involved.
What tight end? Which one would you like him to play? Because none of them, to this point, Richard Rodgers had 1 really good game in exhibition season. Right. I still think Rodgers is going to end up being the tight end overall. Bostic was hurt. And Corliss, to be honest with you, I mean, there was questions in exhibition season whether or not he was even going to make the team.
I think he's going to be the one they're going to look to a little bit down the field. And they're going to have to start to throw the ball to the backside of the backfield. I think that kind of loosens everything up. And I think offensively, they're creative enough to figure that out. Defensively, I get a little nervous. I'm still nervous.
Defensively is a whole other thing. Did you miss Brad Jones not playing an inside linebacker this week?
I did not.
No. They played Lattimore, and he played fairly well. And Jones not practicing again as of Wednesday of this week. So maybe Lattimore gets another start to prove himself. I don't know if Lattimore comes and plays against the Lions and Brad Jones can't, and Lattimore plays well again, I don't know if Brad Jones will get his job back.
Yeah, I probably not. That was a really bad first week for him.
Yeah, it was.
It was a really bad first week. And I think with Lattimore, at least you don't hear his name as much.
Right.
You don't see the mistakes that he's making, and he seems to at least play downhill a little bit, where I'm just not sure that Jones does that.
The other thing about this football team right now is you look at that secondary. That was up in a big question mark. How is the safety play going to be with Morgan Burnett, Micah Hyde, Clinton Dix, and Richardson at safety? And then the cornerback position. Well, we've had something happen at the cornerback position that I think is really good, and that is Devon House has really stepped up and played well as the third cornerback.
Did that surprise you?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, he's shown flashes, but he hasn't shown consistency.
Right.
And I think he's shown more consistency here in the first couple of weeks going forward, to the point that he's in their nickel defense and not Casey Hayward.
You know, scares me a little, Shields. I think there's at least 1 or 2 plays a game that he gets beat.
Why? Why does he get beat?
He's looking in the backfield like
Right,
that.
and this has been going on forever. And this all started back when Charles Woodson was here, because that's how Charles played. Well, he's not Charles Woodson. Just stop, Sam. You're not Charles Woodson. You're very talented. You're very good. You know I love you. But you got to quit, man.
Yeah, and it happens. When we played turkey bowls when I was younger with my brother-in-laws, one of my wife's brother always looked, we could always do a pump and go at least once or twice a game and know, because he'd come up for that pick. And that, you know what, he's looking in the backfield a little bit. If he does that Sunday, it's 7 points.
No, what's going to happen on Sunday is, maybe I'll be wrong, but they're going to rotate a safety over the top of Kelvin Johnson.
Well,
when Kelvin Johnson's over there, they're not letting Sam Shields play Kelvin Johnson straight up. If they do, they're crazy. I mean,
Yeah,
they're
it's going to be a long day.
They must hit Matt Stafford.
You know, what's interesting from Sunday's game, I said to my wife, you know, I haven't heard and seen Peppers do much. And then I listened to the radio, and people are raving about what a great game he had.
Yep.
And I guess I expected...
He had a number of hurries, but he couldn't get the sacks.
Couldn't get the sack, and I kept thinking with him on one side, Matthews on the other, there's going to be just a lot of havoc, and there hasn't been yet.
Well, part of the reason is because what Capers has done with the defense. What Don Capers has done as defensive coordinator, what we've been asking for previously was put together that 4-3 defense,
right,
and show them what's in the 4-3. Well, when you're in the 4-3, what happens? Peppers puts his hand in the dirt sometimes, but then Clay Matthews becomes a 4-3 outside linebacker, and now he drops back into coverage, which means he's not rushing the quarterback as much anymore. So you've essentially taken him out of that situation.
Right, and that's not exactly what I thought people, you know, what people were thinking when they signed Peppers. I've been impressed with the interior. I'm a little surprised when Raji went out and they made so many changes. You know what, Daniels is playing pretty well.
Yeah, but they need a nose. They've got to find somebody to play the nose. Guyon, no, not the answer. Josh Boyd, no, not the answer. But now they activate and they don't play him. He's the biggest guy you got at this point. And at some point, maybe just admit, maybe we do need to go get Ryan Pickett. Now, God only knows what type of shape he's in. He's been sitting here watching all offseason.
He's ready to go.
Well, yeah.
He's ready to go.
But, I mean, just plug Pickett's big butt behind him there and tell him take up 2 blocks and keep guys off the linebackers. I mean, that's all you need right now, and the guys you got can't do it.
Never did I think we'd be talking about Ryan Pickett's big butt on this show.
Hey, man, it happens. It happens.
That's what they want to hear.
Anything's possible. So
that's what they want to hear and receive.
You taking the Lions?
Yes, I am.
Yes, you are.
I think the Packers are going to struggle a little bit in Detroit. Remember what happened on Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
And that thing started rolling, and all of a sudden Reggie Bush looked good again, and all their receivers looked good, and Golden Tate, you know, he's a nice addition for them. I'm not a Lions fan. In fact, I don't like the Lions at all, but I think Packers are going to struggle on Sunday.
I think Packers win by 14. He is Mike McGivern. I'm Steve Sparky. Fifer, thanks for tuning in to another edition of Sports Junkies, where we do a little back and talk here at RacineSportsZone.com.